You've been told that marriage is love's greatest expression, a sacred commitment, an act of courage, a cornerstone of human connection. But what if it's not? What if that beautifully wrapped ceremony is a psychological ambush, designed not to free you, but to tame you? Because the truth, the one no one dares to say out loud, is this: marriage is not just a vow. It is a carefully orchestrated illusion, a spiritual sedative built on centuries of buried instincts, cultural scripts, and primal fears. Sigmund Freud once warned that what we repress, we repeat. And marriage? It's the grand theater where those repressed instincts take center stage. You think you're choosing a partner, but what if you're merely fulfilling a subconscious prophecy? Let's peel back the layers. From the very beginning, your mind is programmed, not overtly, but covertly. Fairy tales, family expectations, religious sermons, Instagram reels. You're told that true love ends at the altar, that your life isn't complete until you're somebody's husband. You believe you're exercising free will, but really, you're dancing to the rhythm of unconscious patterns, old emotional wounds disguised as modern romance. This is what Freud called the compulsion to repeat, a relentless drive to recreate the unresolved, to seek out the same emotional terrain, no matter how painful, because it feels familiar. Consider this unsettling truth. A 2017 study in the Journal of Family Psychology found that sons of divorced parents are 43% more likely to divorce themselves. Not because they want to, but because, deep down, their psyche equates love with loss, commitment with chaos. It's not your logic that draws you to the altar. It's your scars. Freud argued that society civilizes us by suppressing our primal instincts, taming aggression, sexual spontaneity, raw masculine chaos, and replacing it with ritual. Marriage is that ritual. It's the pretty mask we paint over the beast inside. The wedding ring? Not a symbol of love, a shackle made of gold. Think I'm being dramatic? In 19th century Europe, tales of knights capturing women by force were told as romantic epics. But they weren't just stories. Freud saw them as symbolic exorcisms, fantasies that channeled forbidden urges into sanitized scripts of courtship. Replace the sword with flowers. Replace conquest with a proposal. But the unconscious intent remains the same. Fast forward to today. What's changed? The methods, not the meaning. Now, it's paperwork instead of battle, a shared mortgage instead of a battlefield. The thrill is buried, but the trap remains. And here's the most devastating twist. We are conditioned to believe that suffering in love is noble, that sacrificing your freedom, ambition, and identity is just part of being a good man. But maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to be tamed. Not by tradition, not by a system, not by anyone who tells you that your value lies in being a provider, a protector, a predictable machine. What if the reason you feel so restless in peace, so numb in security, is because your soul never signed up for this? What if it's not a fear of commitment, but the quiet terror of becoming someone else's idea of who you should be? This isn't rebellion. This is awakening. Think back to the first time you ever felt love. Not adult love, not relationships. I mean the earliest spark, the fairy tale, the cartoon prince, the storybook kiss. Maybe it was a Disney film. Maybe it was watching your parents. Maybe it was seeing someone sacrifice everything for the one. You felt something stir, something deep, something beautiful. But what if I told you that moment, innocent as it seemed, was the first step into a lifelong illusion? Because what we call falling in love is often nothing more than falling into a familiar wound. A scar so old, so buried, that we mistake it for fate. Freud had a name for this: transference. The unconscious act of projecting unresolved childhood emotions onto new people. The reason your heart races around a certain type of person? It's not because they're your soulmate. It's because they trigger an ancient memory, not of joy, but of lack. A 2018 study in the Journal of Research in Personality found that people who grew up with emotionally distant fathers were 62% more likely to chase emotionally unavailable partners in adulthood. Not because they wanted pain, but because their brain believed that love means chasing what you can't reach. You think it's romantic. It's actually repetition compulsion. Your unconscious trying to rewrite the past by winning a battle you lost as a child. Let's take a real example. A man, let's call him Daniel, meets a woman. She's mysterious, beautiful, distant. Something about her makes his soul burn. He marries her within months. 2 years later, he's miserable. She's cold, emotionally detached, dismissive. But he can't leave. Why? Because he didn't fall in love with her. He fell in love with the feeling of being unseen, the same feeling he had with a mother who praised success but never showed affection. And his mind? It whispered, if I can just make her love me, maybe I'll finally be enough. That's not love. That's trauma, dressed in perfume. And here's the most brutal truth. Your brain confuses familiarity with destiny. You think, we have chemistry. What you really have is matching scars. Freud wrote about screen memories, false recollections that hide something darker underneath. That warm moment you remember about your parents? It might be a screen covering the silence, the coldness, the chaos. And so, you chase women who feel like home. Even if home was a battlefield, you crave the cold because you were raised in the frost. You hunger for love from someone who withholds it because that was your blueprint. This is why so many men wake up in year 5 of marriage, staring at the woman beside them thinking, who is she? She hasn't changed. You just woke up from the trance. And here's the tragedy. You chose her. But you didn't choose as a man. You chose as a boy, still trying to fix something he never broke. They told you that being a man means providing, protecting, sacrificing, being the rock. And so you believed it. You worked harder, gave more, made yourself smaller so others could feel bigger. You swallowed your rage, silenced your doubts, and when marriage came knocking, you opened the door, not out of love, but out of programming. This is the provider trap, and it's been centuries in the making. In ancient Rome, a man could end his marriage with just 3 words. Tuas res tibi habe. Take your things and go. No paperwork, no courtrooms, no alimony. Today, one signature can tie you to a financial death sentence for decades. In the United States, 73% of divorces are initiated by women. Men, on average, lose 30% of their net worth after a divorce. And yet, men keep signing the contract. Why? Because marriage isn't a decision. It's a ritualized hypnosis, injected into your bloodstream before you even hit puberty. From cartoons to classrooms, from churches to cinema, you're told that a man's value is measured by how much he gives. That to be a real man means to carry others, even if it breaks your back. But here's the part no one says out loud. The system doesn't want you strong. It wants you obedient. Freud called this sublimated aggression, the redirection of masculine energy into socially acceptable forms. Marriage, he argued, is one of civilization's most effective muzzles. You once burned with fire, wild, untamed. Now, you pay bills and nod politely while your soul shrinks by the year. And the moment you ask questions, society gaslights you. Afraid of commitment? No. You're afraid of vanishing inside someone else's fantasy, of trading your birthright for a white picket cage. Freud once treated a soldier haunted by dreams of war. The cure wasn't peace, it was facing the truth. He didn't fear the chaos. He missed it, because in chaos, he felt alive. In normalcy, he felt nothing. Now ask yourself honestly, do you miss the chase? The risk? The electricity of freedom? That isn't immaturity. That's your unconscious screaming through the cracks of your domesticated life, reminding you that you were never meant to be a utility. And yet, you stay. You smile. You provide. You watch the wildness in you wither away. And everyone applauds. He's such a good husband. No, he's a man in psychological chains. Because here's the real design. Marriage isn't a partnership anymore. It's a performance. With only one acceptable script. Make her happy. Die quietly. But what if you refused? Not out of bitterness, but out of truth. What if you remembered who you were before the programming? Not a paycheck, not a servant, not a sacrificial lamb, but a man, born free and no longer willing to apologize for it. You felt it, that sudden pull, that magnetic certainty, that voice inside whispering, "She's the one." But what if I told you, she doesn't exist? Not really, because the person you believe you've fallen in love with, the one you've built a life, a future, a dream around, might be nothing more than a phantom, a projection, crafted not by your heart, but by your past. Freud called this transference, the unconscious process of pasting old emotional wounds onto new people. You're not in love with her. You're in love with who she reminds you of. Let that sink in. You think you found someone new, but you're actually looking at a living screen, one that reflects your unresolved childhood pain, your unmet needs, your forgotten fears. This is why so many men feel confused, even betrayed, years into marriage. She changed. No, she didn't. The illusion shattered. Your unconscious finally pulled the curtain back, revealing a woman who was never who you imagined, but exactly who your trauma was drawn to. Let's take Dora, one of Freud's most famous patients. She became obsessed with a man who ignored her, mistreated her, devalued her. Why? Because he felt like home. A home built by a father who was cold and distant. She didn't want pain, but her nervous system equated pain with love, so it chased the pain. And you may have done the same. Met a woman who was cold and felt hooked. Met someone cruel and felt alive. That's not chemistry. That's repetition compulsion. Your psyche trying over and over to win a battle you lost before you could speak. Here's a true story. Victor, a high-powered attorney, fell for an artist with a tragic past. Addictions, trauma, chaos. He gave everything. Time, money, his peace, his sanity. He thought he loved her. But when she finally walked away, he realized something devastating. He didn't love her. He loved the idea of saving her. He loved feeling needed. He loved playing God in someone else's broken story. That's not love. That's ego wearing a hero's mask. A 2020 study in personality and social psychology confirmed it. Men with savior complexes were more likely to burn out, suffer from anxiety, and sabotage healthy relationships. Because deep down, they didn't want love. They wanted control. They wanted to rewrite their past by fixing someone who mirrored the person that broke them. This is the projection trap. It's why you keep ending up with the same kind of woman. Different face, same pain. Your soul isn't choosing. Your trauma is driving. So how do you escape? You don't run. You look. You ask the questions no one wants to ask. Am I in love with her? Or with the fantasy I created of her? Do I want her? Or do I want to win a version of my past that still haunts me? What pattern am I trapped in? And who does she remind me of? This isn't just introspection. It's psychological surgery, and it's the only way to stop confusing attraction with addiction. Because the harsh truth? You cannot love clearly until you stop loving blindly. There is a part of you that doesn't want happiness, that doesn't care about peace or joy or success, that doesn't even care whether you survive. It wants repetition. It wants the familiar, even if that means returning to misery. Freud called this the death drive, a hidden force deep in the psyche, compelling us toward destruction, not because we're broken, but because pain feels like home. You've seen this play out. A man with everything, wealth, health, a kind wife, suddenly throws it all away. For what? An affair, a toxic woman, a life of chaos. You think it's madness, but to the unconscious, it's relief. It's a return to the emotional landscape he was wired to survive in: neglect, betrayal, instability. Let's talk about Mark. By all accounts, a good man. Stable job, loyal husband, 3 kids. But behind closed doors, he was shrinking. His wife belittled him constantly, controlled every decision. He laughed it off. "She's just stressed," his brother intervened. "You don't deserve this," Mark snapped. "You don't know her like I do." That wasn't loyalty. That was identification with the aggressor. The psyche's desperate trick to survive unbearable pain by siding with the source of it. His mind would rather be abused than be alone. This is what Freud meant when he said some men don't love their wives, they love their suffering. And here's the disturbing twist. Society praises it. We call it commitment. We call it honor. We call it being a real man. But what it often is institutionalized self-destruction. A 2021 neuroscience study in Nature Human Behavior found that brains in toxic relationships lit up in the same way as heroin addicts in withdrawal. The pain wasn't a side effect, it was the high. And when it's gone, they crave it. That's why so many men leave one miserable marriage, only to land in another just like it. Because the death drive doesn't want freedom. It wants familiarity, even if familiar means hell. Here's the harshest part. You can leave the woman. You can leave the house. You can sign the divorce papers. But if you don't face the death drive, you'll marry the same pain in a different dress. So what's the way out? Name the pattern. What are you addicted to? Chaos? Control? Coldness? Trace the root. Who made you believe that love meant suffering? Interrupt the cycle. Choose differently, even if it feels wrong, even if it feels boring. Because your nervous system isn't calibrated for peace, it's calibrated for pain. And peace will always feel like numbness until you teach your soul how to breathe again. This isn't weakness. This is warfare against the part of you that wants to die slowly while calling it love. And the only weapon that works? Conscious choice. You thought this was about love. It never was. Because beneath the romance, the roses, the rituals, marriage was engineered to serve a much darker purpose: control. Freud saw it with terrifying clarity. Civilization doesn't tame men with laws or threats. It tames them with guilt, expectation, and emotionally loaded rituals like marriage. The wild masculine spirit, the untamed, untethered, dangerous male, is the single greatest threat to every power structure in history. So how do you neutralize him? You make him fall in love. You make him sign a contract. You make him responsible for others, for a house, for someone else's emotions. And then you punish him the moment he steps out of line. Welcome to the system. Ancient Sparta banned marriage for warriors until age 30. Why? Because attached men fight with hesitation. Empires rise on the backs of free men. They fall when men start apologizing for being who they are. Flash forward to today. You're told marriage is your purpose, that providing, protecting, performing, these are masculine virtues. But what if they're just roles written by someone else? A 2022 study from the Harvard Law Review revealed that false domestic violence claims increase a man's conviction risk by 450%, often with no trial, no defense, no evidence. This isn't justice. It's weaponized obedience. And the moment you push back, you're not a hero. You're toxic. You're selfish. You're broken. But maybe you're just awake. See the pattern. The bumbling dad in every sitcom. The husband as wallet in every commercial. The guilt-driven messaging from schools, movies, even religions. This isn't random. It's conditioning. Starting when boys are 10 years old, told their dreams are oppressive, their instincts are dangerous, their masculinity is a disease that must be managed. You weren't born broken. You were broken on purpose. But now, you see it. And what you see, you can't unsee. So what do? Not rage, not revenge. Reclaim. Financial sovereignty. A prenup is your sword. Separate assets, your shield. Legal literacy. Know the laws before the vows. Psychological clarity. Therapy isn't for the weak. It's armor for the mind. Most importantly, refuse the role. Don't play the good man if it costs you your soul. This isn't a war against love. It's a war against lies. Love is real. Connection is sacred. But not at the price of self-erasure. Freud never told us to stop loving. He told us to stop loving blindly. So here's the final truth. You don't have to walk away from marriage. You just have to walk into it with your eyes open. Because the war for your soul didn't start at the altar. It started the moment they taught you that your worth was how much you could give, and your freedom was something to be sacrificed. But not anymore. Now you see the battlefield, and now you choose.